Imagine working for one of the most powerful men in music, flying private, meeting icons like Madonna, rubbing shoulders with billionaires. But behind the luxury, you're silenced, controlled, and allegedly assaulted repeatedly. This isn't a headline. It's the sworn testimony of a young woman who says she lived in fear under Sean Diddy Combs. In just the last 72 hours, courtrooms erupted with damning accusations, celebrity name drops, and hotel bills hiding disturbing secrets. And while the cameras aren't rolling in that courtroom, what's being said inside may just destroy one of the most influential legacies in hip-hop history. So the real question is, are we finally witnessing the end of Diddy's untouchable empire or the beginning of a dangerous distraction? Trigger warning. Before we begin this episode, I want to offer a very clear and heartfelt trigger warning. Today's content includes graphic descriptions and testimony involving sexual assault, physical violence, manipulation, and emotional abuse. These are extremely sensitive subjects that may be difficult or activating for some listeners. If you are currently healing from trauma, or if you're simply not in the emotional space to hear details of abuse and power-based harm, I lovingly encourage you to take care of yourself first. Pause if needed, come back later, or skip this episode entirely. Your mental wellness is sacred. And remember, just because a story is heavy doesn't mean you have to carry it alone. What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Life Points with Ronda. I know your time is valuable, so let's get started, okay? This episode is not about gossip. It's about power, control, and the deep, often invisible wounds that get hidden behind fame and fortune. We are diving into the courtroom, not the headlines, to unpack the shocking testimony, the unfolding trial, and the societal silence that has protected Sean Diddy Combs for decades. This isn't just about a music mogul. This is about the system that enables men in power to operate unchecked, while their victims carry the scars in silence. Over the last few days, we've heard from a former assistant who described sexual assault, manipulation, and emotional abuse so disturbing it left the courtroom in stunned silence. We've seen celebrity names pulled into the mess. Madonna, Judd Apatow, even messages from the late Chadwick Boseman mentioned in evidence. We've witnessed defense tactics that look a lot like gaslighting. And by now, everyone has seen Donald Trump himself questioned about a possible pardon for Diddy if convicted. So, today, we're not holding back. We're going to walk through every detail that came out on Friday and Monday. Who testified, what was said, how the defense responded, and why this trial is setting a precedent for how we handle celebrity accountability in the age of exposure. We're going to name what others won't, because too many of us have lived in silence. Too many of us have been told to be grateful for proximity to power, even when it's killing us inside. This episode is for the truth seekers, the survivors, and the ones who see through the smoke. Now let's get into it. By now, it's clear this trial isn't just about what happened behind closed doors with Sean Diddy Combs. It's about who else knew. And in this section of testimony, we begin to see the outlines of something much bigger. a network of celebrity access, damage control, and quiet complicity. During Friday and Monday's proceedings, the prosecution introduced a stack of digital receipts, emails, texts, hotel charges, and internal travel itineraries, all used to establish Mia's movements and her direct proximity to Diddy. But what caught the public's attention wasn't just the logistics. It was the names mentioned in those messages. Among them, Madonna, Judd Apatow, the late Chadwick Boseman. Let me break this down. According to prosecutors, Mia claimed that Diddy would often dangle access to celebrities as a form of control. In one instance, she was told that Madonna wanted to connect with her about a possible entertainment gig. Another time, she was told that Judd Apatow could open doors for her in the film industry. These opportunities never materialized. Why? Because they were allegedly used as carrots, a way to keep her obedient and grateful. She also said she was given messages, text, and verbal from other celebrities who may have been completely unaware that their names were being leveraged. In fact, one of the most shocking revelations was that Chadwick Boseman's name was mentioned posthumously in an exchange that prosecutors say was used to legitimize a potential media project and maintain Mia's hope for a future. But here's the twist. None of these celebrities are being accused of wrongdoing. That's not the point. The point is their names were being used as part of a machine, a power structure that created an illusion of proximity, safety, and reward. The illusion kept Mia tied to Diddy long after the abuse had begun. And more importantly, it shows how celebrity culture can become a weapon when it's placed in the wrong hands. Then there's the hotel evidence. A hotel manager took the stand and testified about an incident that took place in a luxury suite booked under one of Diddy's pseudonyms, a common practice among celebrities. The room was listed with Cassie Ventura's name as a guest, and the staff reported an unusual cleaning fee of $500 charged for oil damage to furniture. Prosecutors hinted that this may have been the result of a violent encounter. While no graphic details were confirmed, the courtroom went quiet as the charges were read aloud. That one receipt, one line on a bill, may be the only documented trace of what happened behind that door. And that's what makes this case so disturbing. Because for every act of alleged abuse, there was someone cleaning it up. Whether it was a hotel staffer told to stay quiet, a publicist smoothing over rumors, or a text from a celebrity Diddy never even contacted, there were layers of insulation protecting him. And none of it came from goodness. It came from money, influence, and a system that values silence over justice. So now the public is asking, how far does this go? And who else knew? Because when you build an empire off control, manipulation, and access, there will always be collateral damage. And now it's surfacing one text, one hotel bill, one name at a time. Let's tell the truth. Because silence didn't just protect Sean Diddy Combs. Silence built his empire. From the bad boy days to C-Rock deals, from music mogul to global entrepreneur, Diddy didn't just climb the ladder, he owned the building. And behind the scenes of every flashy deal, every Grammy stage, and every white party in the Hamptons was a structure designed to protect him. Not from failure, but from accountability. This trial didn't just start with one woman. It erupted after over half a dozen lawsuits were filed within a single year. Women and men, former employees, intimate partners, people who say they were silenced by threats, bought out with NDAs, or simply ignored when they tried to speak up. And let's be clear, this isn't just about Diddy's actions. It's about the culture that allowed it to flourish for decades. It's about the publicists who spun stories, the assistants who were trained to look away, the hotel staff who were told to keep it cute and stay quiet, the media outlets that buried allegations for access to the next exclusive, the stylists, the security teams, the managers, all of whom operated in an environment where compliance was currency and speaking out could end your career overnight. So what happens when power goes unchecked for too long? You don't just get a scandal. You get a network of fear. You get rooms full of witnesses who say nothing. You get survivors who don't even realize what they endured until years later, because it was normalized. And it's not just the entertainment industry. Corporate boardrooms, mega churches, sports franchises, nonprofits, politics. The blueprint is the same. Protect the brand. Protect the face. Silence the victims. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't stay buried. It rises, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's messy, even when it's decades too late. Because survivors, they don't forget. Their bodies remember. Their silence is not peace, it's pressure. And eventually, that pressure explodes. And now, we're here. The trial may be about one man, but the culture is about all of us. What we enable, what we ignore, and what we finally choose to confront. So let's confront it. Because until we stop glorifying power over protection, until we stop rewarding silence over truth, there will be more Mias, more Cassies, more stories whispered instead of screamed. And that's not a culture worth preserving. Let's say the quiet part out loud. Black survivors rarely get justice. Black women are rarely centered in conversations about abuse unless they die, or unless the person accused is someone the public is already willing to sacrifice. Mia's testimony matters not just because of what she said, but because of who she is. She's a young Black woman, and like so many others, her trauma was invisible for years. Not because she was silent, but because nobody wanted to listen. In America, Black women are expected to be strong, resilient, unshakable. That same stereotype that we wear, like armor, becomes a weapon used to invalidate our pain. When we cry out, we're called bitter. When we tell the truth, we're accused of lying. When we stand firm, we're called angry. And when we break down, we're told to get over it. So what do? We survive in silence. That's what makes this trial different. Because Mia didn't just speak, she put herself at risk. She risked backlash, humiliation, character assassination, and she still chose truth. But let's not forget, Cassie Ventura, who's also biracial, was one of the first public dominoes to fall. Her lawsuit opened the floodgates, and the world barely blinked until that surveillance footage of Diddy allegedly attacking her in a hotel hallway leaked months later. Then, and only then, did people finally start to take the claims seriously. So the question becomes, what would it take for Black women to be believed the first time? Not after the tapes, not after the bruises, not after the money runs out, or the headlines dry up. This moment is bigger than the courtroom. It's a mirror. Because if Diddy had been anyone else, if Mia had been a different color, if the politics were reversed, Would this story have gotten here at all? Would there be a trial? Would there be a spotlight? Would there even be outrage? This is about more than Diddy. This is about the systemic dismissal of Black pain. And it's not just the justice system. It's the music industry, the media, the fans, the platforms that let powerful men trend for music and fashion while their accusers fade into hashtags. But not this time. Not on our watch. Because every time a Black survivor speaks and isn't heard, we lose something sacred. And every time we choose silence over support, we become complicit. So let's uplift her. Let's believe her. Let's center her. Because if we don't protect the women holding our community together, who will? Let's tell the whole truth, not the edited version. Because yes, this trial is about sexual assault. Yes, it's about survivors. Yes, it's about decades of unchecked behavior. But it's also about power. And power has enemies. The truth is, Sean Diddy Combs didn't just rise to fame. He built power. Global power. Quiet power. Generational power. And when you hold that much influence, when you've got access to artists, politicians, execs, and international bank wires, you don't just make fans. You make enemies. So, it's fair. No, it's necessary to ask, what if this is both a reckoning and a takedown? Because the way this all came crashing down, the lawsuits, the raids, the leaks, the video of the hotel assault hitting the internet with timed precision, that's not just exposure, that's coordination. That's chess, not checkers. This isn't about defending him. This is about understanding that in the world of high-level power, people get sacrificed when they become a liability or when they stop playing ball. Let's not forget, Diddy had a strong grip on publishing rights. He had stakes in major corporate deals. He controlled narratives in Black music and shaped global trends. And lately, he'd been pulling back from some of those alliances, making bold moves, trying to be a kingmaker instead of just the brand. And suddenly, we're watching every closet in his empire thrown open at once. So, yes, the allegations must be taken seriously, but we can't be so hypnotized by the headlines that we don't ask, who's pushing the stories? Who leaked the surveillance footage? Who's behind the timing of these raids? And what deals were getting blocked before Diddy's name got dragged? Because the truth is, he may be guilty, but he also may have made the wrong powerful person mad. And in that world, making the wrong person mad can be more dangerous than guilt itself. This doesn't mean Mia's lying. It doesn't mean the survivors don't deserve justice. It means the truth may have multiple faces. And in this trial, one face is justice, but the other might just be revenge disguised as righteousness. So we have to stay alert. We can hold Diddy accountable and recognize when powerful hands are also moving pieces behind the scenes. Because in this game, justice isn't always blind. It's branded. And sometimes it's personal. The bad boy era wasn't just a music moment. It was a cultural blueprint. Sean Diddy Combs represented Black wealth, style, and entrepreneurial genius on a global scale. He was the polished mogul in the tux, the champagne in hand, the remix king who turned grief into platinum. And now, that empire is crumbling in real time. Since the raid of his Los Angeles and Miami homes, we've seen an aggressive unraveling of the Diddy brand. Music partnerships quietly dissolved. Business alliances distancing. Longtime collaborators silent. Social media presence scrubbed and minimal. Public events canceled. Brand deals on indefinite hold. And the man who once was the party now can't even enter half the rooms he used to command. But the real collapse, it's happening spiritually, because you can lose money and make it back. You can lose status and rebuild. But when the narrative turns on you, when the public stops defending you and starts examining you, that's when you've lost the one thing money can't buy, back trust. And no matter what happens in court, the world is no longer willing to look at Diddy the same way. For years, people whispered. They speculated. They warned each other quietly. Now, it's all out in the open. The public is putting it together. The rumors, the lawsuits, the way women disappeared from his orbit, the way ex-friends allude to what they know but can't say. And like clockwork, people are unfollowing, unposting, and untethering from the Diddy name altogether. Because let's be real, in the entertainment industry, the moment you become a liability, you're no longer legendary. You're expendable. So, what comes next? He may never see a day in prison. The legal system is unpredictable, especially for the rich. But his brand, his legacy, the empire he spent 30 years building, it's already in free fall. And for better or worse, we're watching it live. Whether you see it as justice, karma, or just business, the Diddy era is over. And what rises from those ashes will be watched and judged for the rest of his life. But wait, I want to talk about what bothered me in Mia's testimony. Let's take a look at her dialogue with attorney Brian Steele. Monday's courtroom atmosphere was intense as Brian Steele, defense attorney for Sean Diddy Combs, continued his sharp and unrelenting cross-examination of the woman known publicly as Mia. And in this section, we're going to lay it all out, word for word, line by line, so that you, the listener, can process it in full. Steele came for timing first, questioning why Mia waited until June 2024, 7 months after Cassie Ventura's viral lawsuit, to tell prosecutors that she had allegedly been sexually assaulted by Combs. Do you remember the first time you ever made a claim Mr. Combs ever sexually assaulted you was on June 18th, 2024? I don't remember the dates, but I do remember that horrible conversation. That is 7 months after Ms. Ventura's lawsuit went viral. He then alluded to her legal team, a point the jury didn't hear directly, but noted that Mia is represented by the same attorneys who represented E. Jean Carroll, in her case, against Donald Trump. Next, Steele challenged one of the most dramatic pieces of Mia's original testimony, her claim that she escaped Combs with Cassie Ventura while in Turks and Caicos by paddleboarding out to sea. Were there any text messages, emails, or photographs referring to that event? No. Was that just made up by you? No. He pressed again. How is it that all these events have no photograph or text message or email from you, Yao Ibosu? Objection sustained. Then Steele took it further. Did you hire a lawyer in 2024 because you wanted to join what I call the Me Too money grab against Mr. Combs? Objection sustained again. Steele pushed on the extent of Mia's coordination with prosecutors, asking, "You met with federal prosecutors 27 times in advance of your testimony?" I don't recall a specific number, but it was quite a bit. Then came a shift. Steele presented the emotional contrast between her allegations and the tone of her messages to Diddy over the years. Everything is positive and loving from you to Mr. Combs. Would you agree with that? Yes, of course. He read messages out loud. Hey, saw our doc on Netflix. Top 10. Congrats, I miss you. Combs responded, love, 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 love. Mia wrote back, and I love, love, love you. Happy holidays. I hope it's filled with love and happiness. Tell your fam and crew I love them. Steele followed up. Years later, you're still communicating with Mr. Combs. True? True. You hold your position, Mia, that you were scared to see Mr. Combs? True. I was scared of him when he was scary. Then Steele showed the birthday video from 2013 where Mia was smiling and calling Diddy Puff Daddy, the living legend himself. Thank you for being one of the biggest inspirations in my life. He ended this phase of questioning with a mic drop moment, turning to the jury and asking, one of the legends is the person you're telling this jury has traumatized you? Yes. Let's talk about what a lot of people are thinking, but maybe too afraid to say. As a relationship counselor, I've walked with people through trauma. I understand PTSD. I understand manipulation. I understand that sexual assault survivors sometimes stay connected to their abusers out of fear, guilt, or confusion. But I also understand attachment, ambition, and desire. And here's what I see in this case. Yes, Diddy was clearly a difficult, possibly dangerous man to work for. Yes, these women may have experienced harm under his power, but they all have something in common. They wanted to be close to him, not just professionally, personally, emotionally, intimately. And that doesn't make their pain less valid, but it does complicate the narrative. Because when a woman sends, I love you text for years after an alleged assault, when she's calling him the coolest alien rock star unicorn pizza slice, when she's filming birthday videos with a smile, talking about how much he inspired her, you have to stop and ask, where's the line between love and loyalty and manipulation? And at what point do we, as a public, stop taking every case at face value and start using discernment? I don't believe every survivor is lying, but I do believe that not every pain story is as clean as we want it to be. There is grief, yes. There is trauma, yes. But let's drop the shenanigans. Some of these women weren't just assistants. They were invested emotionally, personally, financially. And maybe that's why it took so long to tell the truth, because part of them didn't want to lose him. We need space to hold both truths. That a man can be charming, brilliant, and violent. And that a woman can be a victim and still crave the connection she once had with him. That doesn't excuse anything, but it does complicate everything. So for me, takeaway is this. Accountability matters, but discernment matters too. And if we're going to talk about healing, we've got to tell the truth about how pain, power, love, and legacy can all live in the same room. Closing reflections and final message. So where does this all leave us? We've heard damning testimony. We've seen evidence, messages, contradictions, and even love notes sent years after the alleged harm. We've watched Diddy's empire collapse in real time. And yet, nothing about this case is simple. And I need to say something honest, not as a host, but as a licensed counselor and a woman who has sat with survivors behind closed doors. Trauma is real. Manipulation is real. But so is ambition. So is attraction. So is complicated emotional loyalty. And when you listen to Mia's full testimony, yes, she may be telling her truth, but she's also someone who stayed in close emotional contact with a man she claims ruined her life. That's not to dismiss her pain, but it is to say, not every story is clean. Not every woman is only a victim. We've got to create space for both truths. Yes, Diddy may be an abuser, but yes, some of these women may have also wanted to be chosen by him, not just employed by him. And that's the part people don't want to say out loud, because it's messy, because it's human, because it forces us to accept that love, fear, trauma, and power can all exist at the same time. As Black women, we carry so much, and we're rarely protected. But protection doesn't mean blind allegiance. Protection means being able to call out abuse and still call out inconsistencies. That's what real discernment looks like. And if we're going to talk about healing, really talk about it, we need to drop the performance and pick up the truth. So here's the life point I want to leave you with today. Be careful what legacies you protect just because you love the person. And be careful what accusations you support just because you hate the power. Truth lives in tension, and real healing comes from being able to hold that tension without running from it. This was a heavy one, but it was necessary, and I appreciate you for staying with me through the fire. If this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.